Hey guys, Timo here. Today we're going to look at the new Poltava, the Tier 6 premium Soviet-Russian battleship. Got ours on the screen here. This has been my standard Soviet battleship build up and down the line so far. Gonna probably say that's not the best build for the ship. We'll talk more about the builds as the video goes on here. First of all, we'll start off comparing it to the CNOP, the Tier 6 Soviet tech tree battleship. And that one has about 6,130 more HP than this particular one. And the gun caliber on the CNOP 406, 306 on the or 356, sorry, on the Poltava. So those are the two main noticeable differences, and the guns more so affect how the ship performs. The guns, the range, point 0.2 better on the CNOP, better reload by about 4.5 on the Poltava, better turret traverse by about 4.8, and then you're going to get better HE damage, better AP damage on the CNOP. Same fire chance, 41%, which is quite high, but the CNOP and the other tech tree, tier 3 through 6 at least, those, I've been running Kedrov with no accuracy buffs whatsoever, and didn't have any problem with the accuracy on any of those ships. The Hand of Stalin guides those shells right where they need to go every time. Poltava might be the Hand of Stalin guiding those shells, but it's like the Hand of Stalin after he's had a couple quarts of vodka. So a little bit different, much more wonky in terms of the dispersion. As we're trashing the guns, we'll go ahead and get a Citadel on the Fiji here, which of course negates my point entirely. I picked this game. I think it's probably the highest damage I've squeezed out of this. I've actually played this about 20 times between the stream yesterday and just some more games, trying to continue to learn how to play it, because this one is not as intuitive as a lot of the ships are for me. And whether or not I actually have, quote unquote, have the hang of this ship or the ship as of yet, I don't know. Maybe there just is no hang of this ship to get, but it's pretty difficult in my opinion, and not as reliable as I'd like to see, at least in terms of the guns. Now the armor, quite comparable. If you're nose in, you're angled properly, you're going to be bouncing a lot of shells, and of course if you get shot in the side, you blow up rather quickly. That should be a theme familiar now as you've been grinding up the Soviet battleship line. So reliability in terms of the armor is there, and I think this ends up being a high caliber, so we're kind of demonstrating that aspect of it. But this game might have been a little bit more atypical in terms of the gun performance. I've had some games where I thought I was playing well in terms of what I was doing, but then I ended up with like 65k damage or 70 or 80k damage, and you kind of go, what the heck? Yeah, if you keep an eye on these icons on the right, the hit icons, you never know what you're going to get. Pen, bounce, shatter, over pen. There just doesn't seem to be a lot of rhyme or reason to it. So I think the CNOPS guns, much more punishing, much more terror-inducing. These ones are just kind of not so. I mean, they're more terrifying for the player of the Poltava than the other people. Not saying you can't get some great damage from time to time, but you got to really... I've been playing around with aim points, shooting higher on ships, shooting for citadels, shooting for decks, shooting for the guns, trying everything we can, and no matter what we try and do, we're just not getting the results, the consistent results that I'd like to see. Sometimes you get some good shots in this one, but the good battleships, in my opinion, have good guns, good reliable guns, so that when you spot the enemy making the mistake, showing the broadside, then you can rip them to shreds and really send them back to the port pretty quickly. So I don't see that kind of a massive firepower threat on the Poltava personally. As for the mobility, kind of a mixed bag. 29 knots in terms of speed, which is pretty good, just shy of the two speed demons in the German lines, the Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst. So good there. Good turn radius, or rudder shift, sorry, 11.9. But you're probably thinking, what do you mean good turn radius? No, we have typical Soviet turn radius, but we have enhanced typical Soviet turn radius. We actually have 1,000-meter turn radius, which is incredibly horrible. That's the worst one in the game currently, and that causes problems, not only dodging torps from time to time, but also just maneuvering around the map. Now, speaking of torps, does have a really good torpedo belt, 33% damage reduction, which is second only to the Colorado thus far with 37. So that'll help mitigate some of the threat that the destroyers will present to you due to some of the mobility issues. But overall, that's pretty typical in terms of Soviet performance mobility wise. Concealment, really good. 13.6 surface detection, 11.4 in the air. That's the best of any of my builds currently at tier 6. And usually the signals, if you're analyzing the ship stats and you see a battleship with good speed and good concealment, that's Wargaming conceiving that ship's playstyle to be kind of like a flanking type of a battleship, which is fine. You know, it can operate in that role. But the problem with those type of premium battleships is a lot of battleship players are the type of players that just drop the anchor as soon as the bell rings, or heaven forbid they kick it in reverse, go to the store, come back, pick up the control, and then proceed to play the game 10 minutes later. So if you can honestly analyze your play style and that's how you play battleships, I don't think this one's going to do that well in that role. Yes, in terms of tankiness, you can kind of get into positions, hold down a line or plug a hole or whatever, but it doesn't have the threatening guns to back it up. If you're looking at that 41% fire chance, thinking to yourself, okay, maybe we can run this as an HE spammer, I don't think it really would work that well. I haven't tried it, actually, so if you have and you think it works, let me know in the comments. But when we're going to compare it to the other high fire chances at this tier, you got the CNOP, same 41%, but that one has 550 more HE damage per cell or per shell hitting. King George, again, same fire chance, but that's 6,100 damage compared to 5,300, 800 differential there. And then the Nelson on my build, I got 6,900, so that's a 1,500 damage per HE shell exploding on that ship. Difference in damage. So usually those type of ships that work well as fire starting HE type battleships, and I don't think there are a lot of them that I would run that way, but it's the strong HE damage output combined with the high fire chance that warrants a look at using those shells and kind of actively switching back and forth between AP and HE as the situation warrants. Here maybe you can get away with it again, but I just don't see the HE damage presenting enough of a credible reason to adopt that as a consistent play style in this one. Getting into the builds, we kind of alluded right at the beginning of the video that maybe this pure tank build that's been working on the Soviets isn't working, and that's mainly due to the less reliability of the guns on this particular one than we've been seeing in terms of performance on the other ships. So I've since playing this game, I've just played maybe one game with Cunningham as an inspiration, but he's affecting the precision and the dispersion, I think, is the main problem with this. Kind of tied in together concepts, but different aspects of the aiming. Not going to get into it too deep at the moment, but I don't think Cunningham really corrects the problem. The other option is Galler. Now, Galler, you can run accuracy build. I was planning on putting some points into Galler to buff his inspiration as HE damage for battleships, trying to have that as an option for certain builds. So long term, in the next 3-4 months, I was planning on getting him up to 11. Ended up putting him up to level 9 just with some promotion orders I had laying around today, and tried a couple games with him there. Gun performance was improved. I mean, it wasn't amazing, but it was improved. But the problem with that is it kind of cuts into the philosophy of these Russian battleships. Maybe philosophy isn't the right term, but one of the noticeable things about Russian battleships in general is the limited amount of damage cons and the importance of the heals to go along with that. Kind of managing your ship's health through your consumables is very important. But to improve the dispersion, which I believe is the main problem with these guns, that's a perk slot 3 on Galler, and the other slot 3 perks on these Russian battleship builds is the ones that increase the amount of damage cons and their effectiveness. So you're cutting down your ability to stop floods and fires, and then you're going to have much less heals as well. So yes, you can improve the gun performance through Galler, but testing that build a couple times, I noticed the problems with the consumables being changed up in terms of how we're approaching them through our build. So I don't know if that's the solution either. Maybe the ship just needs some more work on my part, but like I said, normally I do these early impression videos after about 10 games or so. I probably put in about 20 on this one, and I still don't think I really have this one dialed in. Whether or not you can dial it in, I don't know. So I usually don't try and put too strong of a recommendation into these. I rather provide my thoughts on how the ships play, how they can perform, or how you can reasonably expect them to perform, and then let you make your own decision. But if you want my personal opinion on this one, it would not be one that I would be happy with having purchased had I done so. So you can take that with whatever amount of salt you want. It's not a horrible ship, but it's not my all-time favorite. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, that's a look at the Poltava. Hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave them below. I do love to hear from you guys. And we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.